I want the best for you guys, and I just want to use my life and to encourage you guys so that you guys can have, all the things that I have now plus tons more. That is my desire. I want for everybody to have better than me. I want for everybody to do well. I want for everybody to be healthy. I want for everybody to prosper. Start thinking about your future. Start thinking about what you want for tomorrow instead of just today. And start adjusting yourself. Start finding new friends. Start finding new places to go. Start finding new hobbies, right? Start finding people who are where you would like to be, and befriend those people and trying to figure out how did they get there. If you've got bad habits, learn to let go of some of those bad habits, right? Trying to just wake up every day with a desire to do things a little better, right? Everything is not going to change overnight, but eventually, if you have the desire within you, eventually everything will start to fall into place. My life started to change, when I started to look at things, more as us versus mine's or hers. It's now us, ours. When I start thinking about things now or making any kind of decisions, it's about my family. What would my wife think about this? Is this something that she would approve of? Is this something that's going to impact my family, for the better? How is it going to impact my kids? Am I doing something that's going to be, constructive or productive or positive, or, it's going to be helpful, that's going to help to, to benefit my family, in all the wonderful good ways, right? What is going on, guys? Hopefully everybody's doing great. Another work day. I'm on my lunch break, and as you can see here, this is my lunch that I'm having today. Tuna sandwich, right? And I've got my Bible verse here. Constant reminder, 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14. And so I kind of want to encourage you guys, out there that has dreams. A lot of you guys, are going through a hardship, and a lot of you guys, at times, some of you guys are optimistic, some of you guys are just so, frustrated with the way things are going in your life. Some of you guys are just like pretty much giving up, and a lot of you guys are just going through this, time of uncertainty, right? Which is, you see what's going on in the world right now. And I want to encourage you guys, to keep persevering. Don't give up. For me, I'm here having a tuna sandwich, which for my lunch, which a lot of people would have been like, I don't want a tuna sandwich. I want nice, proper food, or, whatever it is. And yeah, I hear you. There's times when I felt for, some really good quality food. And, at times, I can think, well, you know what, I can afford it. Why don't I just go and buy it? But I don't do a lot of things that I would like to do, when it comes to, whether it's, going out and having steak, or, upgrading my car, or, buying fancy clothes, or, doing all these fancy cool things, which I used to do those things before. And, used to spend a lot of money, trying to look cool, trying to live a life that's, more pleasing onto people, to get people's, acceptance of me. But in reality, I was living above my means, and a lot of times when we do stuff like this, a lot of the people that we're trying to impress, they don't even care about us, right? We want to look good for other people, but at the same time, we are struggling and we are hurting, it's kind of like, as the old saying go is keeping up with the Jones, right? So I've done that for years. Now I'm in a process where just purchased my first home. Now I can, enjoy my tuna sandwich and appreciate my tuna sandwich. And one day I look forward to the, the steak dinner and all that stuff. But like I said, I had a goal in mind, and the goal is for me to be able to purchase a home for my family. We've been renting for, I've been married now this year, 18 years, been together for 21 years. And so there you go. It took me 18 years, to be able to afford a home, right? Now, it's not so much that, it took 18 years for me to be able to buy a home. I look at it differently from a lot of people. I look at it this way. It took 18 years for God to really humble me, to get me to a point where I'm responsible enough, to be able to want to take on the responsibility of having a home, and, having to pay for that home, and be disciplined enough to be able to hold down a job. Because I used to be really ignorant and being out there. And as soon as something happen or my boss or somebody tell me something I don't like, I'd see you, I'm gone. You know what I mean? I was not committed to anything. I was still just trying to figure out my life. Even my relationship, just going through a lot of struggles and not being grounded, in my marriage, how I ought to be, right? Not looking at my marriage as, two people, as the Bible said, one man, one woman joined together becoming one marriage, right? And I was still looking at it in the sense that my own life and almost like trying to be a bachelor kind of thing, right? And my life started to change, when I started to look at things, more as us versus mine's or hers, it's now us, ours, When I start thinking about things now or making any kind of decisions, it's about my family. What would my wife think about this? Is this something that she would approve of? Is this something that's going to impact my family, for the better? How is it going to impact my kids? Am I doing something that's going to be, constructive or productive or positive or, it's going to be helpful, that's going to help to, to benefit my family, in all the wonderful good ways, right? And a lot of times, earlier on in my marriage, I wasn't doing that. And so it took 18 years for me to be responsible enough. Mind you, I mean, it didn't just happen. It's probably, I would say the last 10 years was when I started to become a lot more grounded, and my priorities started to change. I mean, trying to live within the flesh, trying to live for the moment, trying to, buy all these materialistic things just to please the flesh, just to, to get the approval of society. I mean, it took a couple of years for me to realize that, what, I can't live a life trying to please society, because society, is always moving the goalposts, right? Society is not the one that's paying my bills. Society is not the one that's in my marriage. Society is not the one that, is trying to be a good father and a good leader and a good example in my home and to my family, right? Society only dictates to me what it think I should have in order for me to look cool, to fit into society. But the moment I realized that, what, wait a minute, society is just telling me what I need to have in order for me to be accepted by society. But in reality, society really don't care about me. Society is not going to care about my family when I can't pay my bills. Society is not going to, care about my marriage when my marriage is falling apart, when my kids are growing up and, me not being a father to them, them trying to figure life on their own and they're going to go out there and trying to, find other people to impact their lives, stuff that I should have been doing. I should have been teaching them, the right and wrong way to go about things, right? I should have been preparing them physically, mentally, emotionally for life, for the future ahead. I should have been teaching them accountability, responsibility, morals and dignity and self-respect and all these good qualities that we all need, right? And we know in today's day and age, when you talk about morals and values, and when you talk about God and and living righteously and being faithful and committed, and not cheat on your wife or cheat on your husband, and be a good father, a good parent, be responsible, being honest, and when you talk like this, a lot of people, they don't want any part of it, but at the same time they want the best out of life, but they're not willing to do their part. And so I just want to encourage you guys, as I make these videos and just trying to use my life to be an example. And if you guys have seen all the videos on my channel when I was talking about, where I was talking about how I was brought up and how difficult it was for me and how my mother abandoned me and how my father tried to beat me half to death and, being in and out of jail and just trying to figure out life, and where do I fit in? It just felt like nobody loves me, nobody cares. And, at times just felt like just giving up. Who cares? Even my marriage, I didn't prioritize my marriage like I should have in the beginning, right? The moment I started to look at life from a more responsible perspective, when I started to look at it, as in us, ours versus me and mine's, then things started to change for the better. Things started to change for the better. There's a lot more love in my home. There's a lot more joy in my home, a lot more peace in my home. My family's happy. I'm happy. I have more peace of mind. Even though I may not have a lot of things that I would like to have, but all those things that I was desiring, there's just stuff within the flesh that we all like to have, right? And that's how it was for me for years, right? And but I want to encourage you guys. I gotta go back to. Well, first I gotta finish eating my tuna sandwich, and then I gotta go back to work. But pretty much what I'm saying here is, guys, if we want things to change, we have to change things in our lives. If we want better, we're going to have to do better, and sometimes we have to get rid of certain friends in our lives. Sometimes we have to move away from certain family members, and we have to change our habits, going out, partying, smoking, whatever it is that we're doing, a lot of relationships that we have no business being in if we're trying to get ahead, because a lot of relationship is we just get in those relationships to please the flesh. We have needs, as we like to say, desires, as we like to say, but a lot of those desires is all about the flesh, right? So start thinking about your future, start thinking about what you want for tomorrow instead of just today. And start adjusting yourself, start finding new friends, start finding new places to go, start finding new hobbies, right? Start finding people, who are where you would like to be, and befriend those people and trying to figure out how did they get there, if you've got bad habits, learn to let go of some of those bad habits, right? And trying to just wake up every day with a desire to do things a little better, right? Everything is not going to change overnight, but eventually, if you have the desire within you, eventually everything will start to fall into place. And most importantly, guys, you got to have a relationship with God. You can't just say, "Oh, I know of God," because there's a lot of people out there when you talk to them about God, they know of God, but they don't know God. God wants for us to have a personal relationship with Him, right? God wants to. Sorry about that. God wants to have a personal relationship with us. It's not about, oh, I know of God, or I know God. I pray to God sometimes. I pray to God only when I need something, or my relationship with God is just out of convenience. When I need Him, I pray to Him, I talk to Him. When I don't need Him, I don't talk to Him, right? That kind of relationship is not what God wants from us. He wants a more personal, intimate relationship with us because He loves us so much. And and at the same time, the way in which we live our life, we're to be living a life that's more pleasing unto God and less pleasing unto the world. And so, like I said, everything is not going to change overnight, but we ought to just pray to God and just ask Him to take away our bad habits, our selfish habits, or our lustful desires, or our fleshly desires. Just ask Him to remove those things from us and put into us the desires that are pleasing unto Him. Put into us humbleness, meekness, kindness, joy, put into us patience for one another, right? Put into us forgiveness. And these are some of the characteristics that we need to have, right? And so anyways, guys, so I'm going to go back to eating my lunch. And I just want to thank you guys, all you guys who subscribe to the channel. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I want the best for you guys. And I just want to use my life and to encourage you guys so that you guys can have, all the things that I have now, plus tons more. That is my desire. I want for everybody to have better than me. I want for everybody to do well. I want for everybody to be healthy. I want for everybody to prosper. And so, guys, I'm going to leave you at that. So thank you so much for watching the video. As always, you guys know what to do. Go out, love one another, get to know God, trust Him, and live. Peace.